Okay, good morning everybody. Just hello, I'm Ian Barrow, as Marek said. I am a nervous speaker, so if I speak too fast, put your hand up in the air. I'll try and slow down, if I look up, of course. I want to talk to you today about how Conversis has cured many of its problems using the memoQ API over the last couple of years, and a few other solutions along the way. If I swallow my words again, I'm sorry. A little bit about Conversis. I won't go through it in great detail, but basically we've been using memoQ since about 2017. We actually did a comparison then of it and against 5 of the other major CMS, TMS solutions, and this one came out by far on top, by a good, clear 10-15% of our scaling. So we really love it. We think it's probably the best. About me, there's all a bunch of stuff about me, but basically the only thing you really need to know is that I think I know memoQ quite well. That is me winning the competition last year. I think it's going to Jeremy this year, unfortunately. And as it happens, I actually taught myself most of what we learned through the API. So I do think it's possible for one to go out and start from nothing and get there. So Conversis has been diagnosed with an awful lot of ailments over the last 5 or 10 years. I'm hoping to walk you through some of these and how we solve them. So potentially you can go back to your companies and solve some of your own problems. I tried to make it fun and interesting, but if it's not, sorry. Okay, our first problem that we have at Conversis is too much to swallow. We get Spanish for Australia, Bulgarian for Turkey, and usually hundreds, or not hundreds, but dozens of other languages in our language projects. This is a real common issue for global studies. There are quite lots of random languages and locale combinations, mainly so that we can hit as many people globally as possible, or our clinical trials can, and also because they store document sets by language and locale. So you will have a specific set of documents for Spanish for Australia that aren't the same as the Spanish for Spain or Spanish for Argentina. Okay? And I need to scroll down my thing here because it's a smaller screen. So to handle this is how we've done it. We've created a language reference table, which is over on the left-hand side, where we capture all the language we're working in, the memoQ codes, and we actually have a variant field. So you can see over there we have Spanish for Cuba, we have Vietnamese for USA, and so on and so forth. We then use a project template, something like this in the middle, to actually create all our projects. And what we've done is we use the subject field, which we're not using for anything else, to help us build separate projects for each of these location variants. And then we use the API to just create 10, 20, 30, dozens of different projects where they vary away from the standard language locale combinations. Okay, so simple problem, simple solution. And what we end up with is what we see on the right here, maybe 10, 20 projects where we have Arabic for Sweden, Russian for Turkey separated out so we can store those documents separately. And now we need to hit this over here in space. Oops, too far. Death by 1,000 cuts. Importing different subsets of source files per language locale. So again, back into the global studies problem, we have 20 documents, but not every language locale wants 20 documents. Some want 5, some want 10, some want 6, one wants letter, one wants A4. It's an absolute pain in the arse. Excuse my language. On the left we have how we currently, or used to, again I've not checked in a while, import documents into multiple languages in memoQ's UI. And you would need to select each language that you wanted that document imported in, or deselect them. And annoyingly, if you ever clicked away, you lost your selection. So what we ended up doing ourselves was, again, creating a grid. It's an Excel sheet. It's behind me for those that can't see it, of basically all the language combinations and all our documents. And our engineers, our project managers, go through and simply select what document they want to go into what language. We have some generic rules for A4 versus letter. And then we can choose the memoQ API to import those specific files into each language locale combination. So for when it's dealing with, as I said, 50, 60 languages, we get a brief view from our customer with all the crosses in it, and we just migrate it into here and press go. And it saves ourselves, I wouldn't like to guess how much time and reduces risk exponentially. Okay. The whoops and repetitive strain. So our clients love to give us incorrect files, and we also have certain translation rules that we have to apply to all of them. To keep visibility in the history of our translation documents, we like to keep both all old versions of documents in memoQ, especially when the client sends a new one. So what we end up doing is just simply renaming some older documents to DNU. This way we have all the translation history in there. We can see who did the translation, the review, second review, and then as we move to the new document, continue on from there. So we have full traceability all the way back through time within the one project and easily accessible. So it's straight in there, version 1, 2, and 3. They also like to give us sort of translation rules. So for all our document sets, they have these lovely footers that are translated, but they're not translated. So we go through and we have a process. We can go in and, using the API, export all the documents, set the rules, translate the footers automatically, lock down a segment, and re-import it all back into the memoQ. So saving our engineers, again, more and more and more time. Yeah, I'm okay. I might have lots of time left at the end. Okay, a little comment here, and you do all that using regular expressions, quite regularly, obviously. We also have sections in our documents that our clients want to have text in the bilingual, but not translated. So we need to lock that down because we don't want to charge them for it. So there's a lot of work going into exporting the files, modifying them, and then re-import them back into the system. We have a lot of recurrent recurrent injuries is my next one. We get a lot of our studies last decades, which means our projects last decades. So we need to make sure we can organize those files in a way we can come back to them later on. So what we like to do is try and put them all in one, and I say one in quotes in my notes here because there's, as you saw, there's sometimes more than one project, but one memoQ project for that language locale combination. It means that along the way we can always come back to the files. We actually store them in subfolders per sort of order request. I'm losing my notes again. Yeah, so we can always go back, find them, we can see when we did it, who worked on them, what file content was happened, and have all that history in every single project we work on. To integrate this, what we did, we created a custom integration between our business management solution, and if you want to know which tool that is, you can ask me later, and memoQ, where you can assign the file in the order in the business management solution, and then it's immediately hooked up to our memoQ project. So again, very specific to our usage, but it was a requirement for us to be able to handle these such large, ongoing translation requests. We have a problem with bloating. It's a big problem for us with something like 100 studies or more going on and 1,000 files more. Our projects can get very large. So we use the API to check for our projects to look for the last modified date or the last due date in a project. And when they're old enough, we like to archive them off the project. To do this, we use a combination of the project templates. You can set on wrap up to do things like clear out the working TMs, update the final TMs, export a copy of the files. And then we use actually part of the system is once the project is wrapped up, you can automatically have it archived end of the week, end of the day, or whatever. So for us, when we work with somewhere between 800 and 1,000 projects on our server at a time, so we don't want them to keep growing. So this and then when the study comes back, we can simply restore it using the archive process from memoQ, which works quite well. Okay. This is my cat Max. Say hello, Max. He's actually on my keyboard. You can't really see it there because he's covering the entire thing, but that's my primary keyboard, and I have a secondary keyboard as a backup. So slips and trips and cat-like misclicks. So we get cats on keyboards and we have other accidental source changes. With medical studies, it's important that the source is identical between the document and the bilingual table. Okay? It's actually one of our deliverables to our customers. So that then goes off for ethics review, etc., etc. So it needs to be the same. And occasionally we are seeing accidental edits or purposeful edits, depending on who you believe. And I've had someone actually tell me, we saw a difference. My cat got on my keyboard and accidentally pressed F2 and then the 1 key, and that was the edit that we had in the system. So what we do with the API is we actually take a snapshot along the way on each step of our translation process, and we grab the source, just the source text. And then as we deliver each step, we have a little export again, which we export an updated version and compare, and just to make sure no one's done any edits through the process. So again, using the API to just get access to content, to save it, to store it, to compare it, do other things. There's lots of mentions of the API in here. But it is a real problem for us, and it has become an issue where we had to create this, which is one of the reasons why In the memoQ Ideas portal, I have a do not let the translators edit the source ticket, which I think they're working on. I hope. This is a small one for you guys. We have a lot of problems with tooth loss. Our project managers like to suddenly go out of the office ill. Now, if you're using business management, memoQ integrations, or if every single one of your project managers is an administrator, then you probably don't have this problem. But if you have a normal project manager in memoQ, they can't see all the projects unless they're assigned to it. So we create a nice little button when people go on holiday, because I do not want them all to be administrators. It's not going to happen, not on my watch. And they need to cover, they have a simple button they can press that will go to the API and add them to the project as a user. So they can go check out the statuses, they can check out the project, they can look at the files. Tiny little thing, but it just makes everyone's life easier. They don't have to bother me as an admin, they don't have to find a project manager on the project already, they just press a button and it's done. And in this case, it adds to all the projects that are relevant to that order. It's actually a master order, so what we do is we create a master structure, and it'll also tell them if something's been archived off, if they want it to be restored. And then the engineering can go and restore it. Okay. Yeah, you can have loads of time for questions. Amnesia, this is based at the linguists out there in the world. Adding our bilingual to reference as live docs. So, because we have these large projects and keep all documents together, as new files arrive 6 months later, we want to give reference material to our linguists. Okay? We don't want to assign them the translated files that are fully complete because we don't want them editing them, so we put them into live docs. And the last check, when I looked at it, so it may have changed in 10.6 point something, you couldn't do that from the server project. You had to check it out, get it locally, and then add to live docs. And you had to do it sort of language by language, project by project, very clunky. But you can do it through the API. It's great code. On the right here is my horrible dialogue. I am not a UI designer. It's never pretty, but they do work. Where every single document from this master project, from every single study that we've done, is available, and our team can go through and select, match up file names, and simply with a couple of clicks get that live doc populated, created, reset, and it works very well for us. That way our linguists can go and have all the previous material without us having to risk exposure to editing documents, or just, yeah, it works very well. It creates a live doc per language, which solves a bug regarding a little bit of overlapping language blurring, let's say. But it means that for our project management team, once we have that reference material needed, it's a couple of clicks and it's added. And it's all done using the API, would you believe? I had to look up this word. I found it suitable to my needs. So it's dysphagia. I'm not a medicine, I don't know. Difficulty swallowing or discomfort in swallowing. So this was something that came up in 2021 from one of our customers. They said, hey, we're doing this wonderful new tool out there. It's called Figma. It's brilliant. And I went, oh, isn't that great? Another tool, another platform, another process. And it doesn't have a translation export. It doesn't have a export me a nice file I can rip the text out of. It's a web-based solution. So we had a look around. There are some solutions out there that were working in Figma, different platforms that exported it, but not in a way that we felt was good enough for us. So we made our own. This plugin also links to the memoQ via the CMS API. So basically someone in Figma can go to the plugin and with a couple of clicks get the content out for translation into memoQ. You press it, and surprisingly it works backwards the other way as well. Okay. And that's what the CMS in memoQ is designed to do, the CMS API, and it really is a powerful tool if you can find those connectors to build. Oop, wrong button. I've lost my mouse now. Okay, we'll leave it there. So my hope is that as we progress forward, we shall see more of these API options to be used. But actually, the main reason I wanted to put this slide up is because that's my plugin, and I'm promoting it. So if you want to use it, by all means do. It's free and available through the Figma community. Okay. I lost my mouse, man. Oh, there you are. Trying to get my mouse back. Thank you very much. Impatience. So pseudo translating to check for under and over translation. So our clients are very, very creative. They love to find unusual file formats you've never heard of. And therefore, to deal with that, we have to create custom filters, custom parters to handle that. And what our engineering team were doing was putting a file. Even PowerPoints have had similar problems. You put the file into memoQ, you generate the project, you export it, you pre-translate it, you export the file, and then you find that because it's a PowerPoint, it's got text on the master slide, okay, you have to go back and reprocess it again, and if you're not careful, you then confirm your pseudo-translated file into the TM. This was obviously not ideal, and it takes quite a bit of time. So we used a project template and an MT pseudo-translation plugin from memoQ, so our engineering team now can simply grab the file, maybe create a filter, import it, and immediately the file is pseudo-translated, exported, and available on the network for them to then open and check, confirm it's not over or under-translated. Okay. And all those automated actions are around the after import. That's the wrong screenshot, sorry. But it's all after the after import section. So as soon as the document's imported, all those steps happen simultaneously. And this is stuff that you can do within the project template. The project templates are quite powerful if you want to automate steps of exporting, importing, pre-translating, analyzing, you name it, they can do it. Yeah, I'm all right. So again, to segmenticus, I make up words a lot. So this is a typically badly segmented XLIF file from one of our CMS tools that we work with. I think it's like Drupal, but I kind of made it up. If anyone knows Moby Dick, it's up there. What we intend to use to deal with this is we actually populate the target text segment automatically using a little regular expression tool, which you can see here in the middle. It's a very simple script in a tool called AutoHotkey, which will fill the target, and then we use a cascading XML filter to deal with the content. And this allows us to get away from single massive segments from our linguists, and it's a very quick, it's a single drop file on tool, and away we go. So for us, again, using the custom XML filter with a cascade into HTML and regular expressions in a little tool, you know, we can save hours of manual fiddling with the files. I've lost my mouse again, haven't I? I keep doing that. Okey-dokey. Escapism. So quoted strings. So these are the last couple of examples I want to go through are quite common occurrences for us. We don't use the API so much for these, but I wanted to sort of highlight them as ideas around simple file prep, pre-processing, post-processing of files. So the first, a simple three-step replacement we use on quite a lot of sort of old software files. We like to escape out escape quotes, or replace escape quotes with normal quote marks so the translator can just translate them as they are. And we like to use these hockey sticks or these not symbols to capture our strings. And that way we can reliably let the translator just translate whatever's in there, and then at the end of the way back we replace it all out again. So this has been incredibly useful for us, especially for a format we call MDX, markup something, something, something. And that typically, and you'll see it this afternoon, it has like 4 different ways of encoding content in one file. So by using a little hockey stick as a marker, we can define what gets translated, how it gets translated, and then we can use things like the quote marks outside the hockey sticks to decide how we need to escape content within them. So, things. And last but not least, joint replacement. So we have XLIF with wrong language codes. This was a problem something to me last year, I think around memoQ or Gala, I can't remember which. But you know, we have XLIFs for our customer. They've all got lovely language names, but they don't match memoQ convention. And what you can do is you can import them into a tool that supports them, then export the file, and then put that into memoQ and export them and put it back, and it's a pain. Whereas a small tool that can simply replace those language codes means you can then drop 100 correctly identified XLIFs into memoQ, and it will distribute them correctly amongst the languages. So, saves a lot of time, in my opinion. Okay, this is all great, but if none of this has any value to you, then I'm sorry, but that is okay. But I do think that the API can be helpful to everyone. First, you need to ask yourself, where does it hurt in your company? What's the pains that you are going through in and around memoQ? Then you want to start small and simple. Try and get the tools, create solutions that start solving small issues and expand from there. And if you get stuck, you can phone a friend, and that friend can be me. I am quite happily support anybody who wants to get started in these things. But the main thing I think you need to do is as you start developing these solutions, track your time. Compare old to new. What I've shown on the screen today is just some of the problems that we have, but just imagine the time saved already. And it can be valuable for all of you, I'm hoping. Okay, so last part of the presentation, I want to quickly take you through how I started using the API. The link at the bottom of the screen here, I think is still relevant, is linked to the memoQ API documentation. Now, in my opinion, I think it's one of the clearest API documents I've ever read. Someone did say in the app that apparently Phrase is better for their documentation from their API. Well, that might be true, but I've seen so many worse that to me this was easy. It's well structured, it's there, the web services are clearly documented, and I think it's readable. Yep. If you want to get started, I can recommend SOAP UI. It's a simple tool where you put WSLDN, which you can find from the documentation, and it generates all the calls for you to experiment with. You can then build up a process flow from there. I'm going to move on a bit quicker. And then once you have that process flow defined, I personally like to use the tool AutoHotkey. It's a very simple scripting language. You can build executables in a couple of clicks. And yeah, it also, you can use it, if you write it properly, you can take the code from SOAP and stick it in your code. So if you want to get started using the API, simple combination of documentation, SOAP UI as a piece of software, and then something very lightweight like AutoHotkey to build your solutions. And 60% of our solutions are built in AutoHotkey, and the other 40 are built in VB.NET. So, and I do think anyone can use this. AutoHotkey has a great tutorial, a great help, and you also have a friend if you want to start using it. And that was me.